With the season wrapping up, we can take a look at who deserves the awards with only a handful of games left to play. And I give a pass to the son of one former Yankee MVP, but not to another Yankee former MVP. Did that sentence make sense? I don't know. Neither do you. This is a Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, the Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover for the third day of October 2022. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Look down there. Just call me Sully. Much easier to remember that. I'm an Emmy-nominated television producer. That's impressive. But I've also been podcasting for baseball for well over a decade. And guess what? We are just 3 days away from the end of the regular season, which would be my fourth as the host of the Locked On MLB podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But I do not do this show alone. On Mondays, right there, look at my Brady Bunch box. Look at that good-looking face. Look at that. Put a diaper on that face. Look at that baby face. That beard doesn't fool you. But Millard Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks joins me, and here we are to talk a little bit about the game. Hey, Millard, where do people follow you?
Hey, you can follow me on Twitter, my personal account, Creator Thomas24 on there. You can follow the show account on Twitter and Instagram, Locked On Diamondbacks. Just look it up on the search, little search bar, those platforms. We're also on YouTube, Locked On Diamondbacks on there as well. And of course, we're on all your podcasting platforms.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On MLB Pods. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And of course, follow us on all your podcasting catchers and on the YouTubes. The games ended on Sunday, and it is still a tie for the American League record for home runs in a single season, and that belongs to Aaron Judge and Roger Maris. So it's funny, he is at a little bit of a home run drought. He didn't hit a home run against Boston. He didn't hit a home run this weekend, which everyone on the planet, after, it looked like he could home run at will against Pittsburgh. He's hit one home run in the past couple of weeks. The one that tied Maris up in Toronto. But 2 series at Yankee Stadium, and now the Yankees go on the road. So if he is indeed going to pass Maris, it's going to be a road game. I got to check where the Yankees are going to be in Texas. Okay, he's going to hit a home run there because it's Texas. It's the Texas pitching staff. It's easy. I hit 4 home runs this year in Texas.
Wow.
But but it isn't outrageous to think that maybe, just maybe, he doesn't hit a home run in the 3-game set, and then after all this, Maris would still co-hold the record of most home runs. Part of me wants that to happen.
Because there's definitely a combination of things that's happening right now. I think Aaron Judge is definitely pressing a little bit because he knows he wants that record. It's like Steph Curry last year when he was chasing the 3-point record. If you look at his percentages and his 3-point makes up until the record, he was starting to be really off and really not Steph Curry-esque. Same thing happening with Aaron Judge. He was on this great home run pace the whole season, but the last couple of weeks, he's not on that same pace. I think he's pressing a little bit at the plate. And also, you just look at how pitchers are pitching to him. I know Connor Newcomb of Locked On Orioles likes to point out every Aaron Judge strikeout on Twitter, but also if you look at Aaron Judge's OBP over the last couple of weeks, his OBP over his last 12 games is like 570. Over his last 6 games, it's like above 600. So even though he still might be striking out, there's still a ton of walks in between that as well. So right now, just a combination of things for Judge during this home run chase. Is he pressing too much? Yes, they're also pitching to him differently. But I think the funniest thing right now is probably when you watch the college football Saturdays, all the cutaways to Aaron Judge every time he's up at the plate. College football fans are not happy, Sully. They're not a big fan of all the Aaron Judge cutaways during his at-bats because I guess baseball is still not very cool in the eyes of football fans right now.
Oh, cry me a river. ESPN would cover football in the middle of the World Series. All right, just deal with it. All right. Here's when I hear people complaining about how the pitchers are pitching to Aaron Judge. Maybe just consider this. Maybe some of those pitchers want to get Aaron Judge out or don't want to surrender a home run. Mm-hmm. You ever think that maybe some of these pitchers are pitching for their job next year and kind of don't want to see their ERA go up? You ever think that some of them might be taking, this guy's hit a bunch of home runs. Maybe I should pitch around him. Maybe I shouldn't try to let him beat me. And it's not the pitcher's job to be the Green Goblin and throwing a pumpkin up there for Aaron Judge to hit out of the ballpark. Like, they just played Baltimore. Baltimore's trying to finish above 500. Psychologically, what that means for that team to after all these 100-loss seasons, to turn a corner and finish this year with a winning season, which a grand total of nobody thought was going to happen this year. That some people thought they were going to improve, maybe like a 75-win team, because some of those players were certainly percolating in their system. But to finish this year with a winning record means a lot to the Orioles, especially when you're trying to build on that as a foundation. And maybe for some of these Orioles players to be playing in the pressure cooker with all the cut-ins to the games, they know their eyeballs are going to be on them. Maybe, I know this is an outlandish thought, maybe one of them doesn't want to be immortalized as the guy who coughs up the home run to Roger Maris. To Aaron Judge. Whoops. It's a strange thing that some of these players are actually trying to win the baseball games they're playing in. And that also is going to be true when they go to Arlington starting tomorrow, where a lot of players there, the Rangers stink, but some of them are going to be playing and thinking, all right, I'm on, the spotlight is on me now. And maybe, just maybe it'll be good for my career to pitch well right now.
Yeah, because there seems to be this negative connotation against the pitchers for pitching around Aaron Judge at this point in the season, which I don't get. But maybe if you are like a franchise like the Pittsburgh Pirates, and you're out of it at this time of the year and you're going against the New York Yankees, hey, maybe you do want to give up a meatball to Aaron Judge. And like you say, be immortalized, be in the record books, and at least be known for something this season.
I don't think people want to be remembered for that. I don't know. I guess it's not a great dishonor to be the person to cough up the home run, but maybe there's ain't going to be me. Not going to be me.
If you're a guy who's like, you know what? I'm probably not going to have a very long major league career anyway. At least I'm going to be the dude that gets known for giving up the home run to Aaron Judge. That's something I could put on my baseball plaque when I retire.
Great. Yeah, you coughed up. That's what people want to be remembered for, losing. No, look at Aaron Judge has got to earn this. He strikes out a bunch in the last bunch of days, which shows that, guess what? He sees a few strikes. It's not the other pitcher's job to immortalize Aaron Judge.
Do you feel differently about the season if he only ties the record and not actually breaks it?
Well, yeah, because he didn't break it.
Does it not feel as historical then?
I think he stinks.
Okay.
No, it's a phenomenal. It's a much better all around season than Maris had in '61. He's having a remarkable year, a historic year. So if he doesn't hit a home run in the next 3 games in Arlington, he will still hold or share the record for the most home runs by an American leaguer in a single season. Who had that in the pool at the beginning of the year?
Let me give you the ESPN First Take question. Does the MVP ride on Aaron Judge breaking the home run record?
No, it does not. I will get to the MVP question in the second part, because I do want to go over everything here. I do want to bring up the fact that Roger Maris's son, Roger Maris Jr., has been going to the interwebs and saying that they have to find a way to sort of break down the home run record, to sort of to create different categories for the home run record, because he feels that there's a certain amount of cheating that went around that took away his father's record before.
Fair.
I'll give Roger Maris Jr. a pass. It's his dad.
Mm-hmm.
If my dad, I love my dad, may rest in peace. I love my dad to death. And if there was someone about to pass my father in the record books or something, I'd probably be very defensive about it too. So I give Roger Maris Jr. a pass, because Aaron Judge is one swing away from making Roger Maris a very obscure trivia question. Also, his dad caught a lot of flack. People weren't rooting for him. Yankee fans weren't rooting for him in '61. They were rooting for Mantle to pass him. They got a tremendous amount of crap because Mantle was the great Yankee hero who was supposed to pass Ruth, and Maris was a bit of a mercenary who they acquired from Kansas City by way of Cleveland. And no, this is Mantle should do this, not Maris. And the two of them were neck and neck and neck and neck until Mantle got hurt, surprise, and Maris passed him. And because the commissioner of baseball, Fort Frick, was a huge Ruth guy, in fact, he ghost wrote his autobiography. He created the asterisk to put next to Roger Maris's record, which said, yes, he hit 60 home runs, but he did it in 162 games, and Ruth is still the king. And so there was a lot of bitterness. And Maris had said his career would have been a lot more fun if he didn't hit the 61 home runs, if he just was a really good player, excellent defensive right fielder who didn't have that one standout year. So I'm sure there was a lot of bitterness to how his dad had his home run record in 61, as opposed to the celebration of McGuire and Sosa, which, by the way, the Maris family followed them around and Maris hugged them. And there was all this love for the Maris family when he did that. Suddenly he's throwing that to the garbage. And I don't know, I give Maris Jr. a break because of that history. But that being said, the single season home run champion is Barry Bonds. I can prove it in a court of law. And I've used this analogy before. You may personally not acknowledge it. Like I don't acknowledge the Star Wars prequels or the Exorcist sequels. But they're factually there. When I watch The Exorcist, I don't think, oh, then the sequel, that happens. No, in my mind, it didn't happen. But I can't say that Exorcist 2 didn't exist or the Star Wars prequels didn't exist. So you can acknowledge it or it can mean nothing to you, but it's real. Bonds is the home run king. And guess what? If Judge doesn't home run the next 3 games, his dad's still in the record book for most home runs by an American leaguer in a single season. And it's no small feat. So I give him a pass, but let's end all the nonsense about who's the home run king or this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah, it's okay to say Bonds has the record, and the record might be a little tainted. I think it's okay if it's tainted because at that time, everyone was tainted, and baseball allowed the taintedness. So let's start right there. And with Aaron Judge, I mean, well, let me go to Roger Maris, actually, because I feel bad for the son. Yes, you don't want Papa's record getting broken because, in all honesty, it's not like we're sitting around having Roger Maris conversations. Outside this home run chase for Aaron Judge, I quite literally haven't heard, I probably could count on one hand how many times I've heard Roger Maris's name in my lifetime because not a lot of times we talk about Roger Maris. So I can see why the son doesn't want the record broken. But guess what? If Roger Maris didn't have this record, we would probably never talk about him ever in his career. So at least he has something going for him in that standpoint.
And Billy Crystal directed a wonderful movie called 61 with an asterisk next to it.
Oh, did he?
About the home run chase. It was an HBO film made in, I think, 2000 or 2001. I was so cynical when I saw it was being made. This is going to stink. And Barry Pepper, who's a wonderful actor, Saving Private Ryan, a bunch of other films, who looks exactly like Roger Maris. And Thomas Jane, who's a wonderful actor, has been in 1,000 movies, who looks exactly like Mickey Mantle, played the two of them. And I had my nose up at it as a vanity project for Billy Crystal. It's a great movie. It's a really great movie about the home run chase, about Maris and Mantle's friendship, about what was going on there. And even though I know what happened, I got involved in this. Is kind of a lifelong Red Sox fan. By the end, I got a little tear in my eye when you see Maris breaking the record. And if you hadn't seen that film, it's about 20. It came out like 2000, 2001, and it's a pull your heartstrings film, but it's less about the record and more about the friendship, the very unlikely friendship where Mickey Mantle was this hard partying, drinking, womanizing guy. And Roger Maris was this super straight-laced Midwesterner who was new to the Yankees, relatively new to the Yankees. It was only his second year. It's a really good movie. And you can't help, if there's any truth to it, you can't help but have a lot of love and sympathy. And Billy Crystal, this comedian, was the director, and he has a blink and you blink and you miss it cameo in the film too.
Yeah,
But
and if the son is upset about the record, maybe he could help make a sequel with Aaron Judge for the movie and keep his father's legacy tied toward the record, Sully. I don't know.
let me tell you, if they made that, it is a surefire bet that they will win the Emmy Award for that. If you're going to make any bets, go to betonline.net. It's your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games, events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, I didn't mean to put a kibosh on your MVP discussion, but I want to talk about all the awards in segment 2. So let's get right to the big one. I think the fact that Judge has tied the record is enough to make his case. I think the fact that his stat line on baseballreference.com is just a full line of dark italic stats.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani is a very good pitcher and a very good hitter.
Great.
And Voltron that into the discussion of value. And you know what? I wish that whoever invented this award called it Player of the Year and not Most Valuable Player, because it would have made this whole discussion a lot easier to do. But I digress. It's a philosophical thing, and you and I have talked about it to death, which is what's more valuable, a great hitter or a very good pitcher and a very good hitter in the same body. And I don't think either argument's wrong. And I think it takes a historic season to wrestle it away from Shohei Ohtani, and that's what we've got. So that's why I give it to Judge, but I do not, and this makes it sound like I'm trying to do a Johnny Cochran type rhyme here. I give it to Judge, but I do not begrudge anyone who says Ohtani.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, over the last 10 years, we've made up all these stats that tell you how much more valuable one guy is over the next. And all the value stats tell you Aaron Judge, you look at WAR, he's the best player by far in WAR. You look at WRC+, he's the best player in that. He could potentially win the Triple Crown. He currently doesn't lead in average, I believe, but he could still win the Triple Crown. He's tied the AL record. Every stat you could want, Aaron Judge owns. He's on the team with the best run differential in the American League. And look, I love Shohei Ohtani. He's probably a top 5 hitter and pitcher, which is just absolutely insane. But yeah, I do feel like your team record matters a little bit. Like, his manager was fired. At one point, his team did lose like 20 straight games. I feel like all that matters. While Aaron Judge, his team has been phenomenal all season. I feel like that offense needs Aaron Judge. I feel like you can't just swap the two and you get the same results if you're the Yankees. You need every one of those 61 home runs from Aaron Judge, because I don't think that offense is really that high octane without Aaron Judge in that lineup and all those, power home runs and doubles he had throughout the season. So I feel like if Aaron Judge is on the Yankees and you swap the two, I feel like the Yankees probably aren't as good with Shohei Ohtani, to be honest, even though a lot of people try to make that argument. And I don't even like to do the hypothetical switch the two people argument, because we don't live in that world, Sully. We can't live in the multiverse of madness like Doctor Strange. We can't do that, Sully. We only have this universe. So right now, with what we've seen from this year, I have to go with Aaron Judge over Shohei Ohtani for MVP.
Yeah, and again, for those of you who are throwing something at your at the whatever you're listening to me on, keep in mind, I'm not saying you're wrong if you decide to go with Ohtani. But here's one thing: I don't really like to look at the team record as much, but I will bring this up. When the Yankees were sputtering and they had that bad August that made people think, "Oh my God, are they going to blow the division lead? They're going to blow the division lead." What do you think Judge's OPS was in August?
Probably still like 950, I bet.
1.091.
Okay, even
it was still over 1,000. When the Yankees were sputtering, he was still producing. Imagine if he went into a slump. They would have dropped those games. So not only was he the statistic, whether you like if you like traditional stats, great. If you like new sabermetric stats, guess what? We got him for you too. And if you're looking about his effect on the team, if he sputtered at the same time the team sputtered, they probably would have fallen to second place. And so the fact that during the rough patch, he kept the team afloat and no one got to, they never cut to within 2 games of him, despite how they didn't even win. They won one single series in the month of August. I think that's correct. 1 or 2. They didn't have a good August.
Mm-hmm.
But Judge continued to produce. Again, Ohtani is the MVP until proven otherwise, in my opinion. And I think Judge proved otherwise.
Yeah.
I think they're 1-2. And I think that if you said Ohtani, I'd say, okay, I totally understand. I don't think it's going to be unanimous. I don't.
No.
But I think Judge had the type of year that would make that exception. And as always, for me personally, I have the Coen Brothers rule. If you've already won an award, I'm not going to weep if you don't win multiple awards.
Yeah,
So,
from the Twitter community vibe, it seems like most people are riding with Ohtani for MVP, but I do feel like there's also a value in a guy being 6'7", playing right field with a cannon, being able to throw out pretty much anybody on the base, and being from right field and being able to throw it all the way home on a rope, on a dime. Like, that's a different level of value too, because Ohtani does limit your lineup construction. Like, I'm not saying like having Ohtani in the lineup is a bad thing, because he's one of the best players in baseball, of course, even from just a batting perspective. But he does limit what you can do in your lineup, because he has to play the DH and he's not going to go out there and play the field.
So does Ohtani get the consolation prize known as the Cy Young Award? You could make a case for Ohtani being the Cy Young Award winner. And let me just, and you could do that using, you can use you can use, the sabermetrics world. He's top 3 WAR. If you want to use more traditional stats, he's number 4 in the league in earned run average. He's in almost every major category: walks and hits per inning pitch, hits per innings pitched. He leads the league in strikeouts per 9 innings. If you still like wins, here's where I'm not a huge fan of using wins as a metric, because so many factors go into it. But I will point out that he's 2 wins behind the league leader, and he's doing it on a garbage team. The fact that the team has a losing record and he is only 2 wins behind the person who's going to lead the league in victories almost makes me want to use that stat. Now, I personally, I don't know if I give it to Ohtani. I think right now, my top 3, Ohtani makes my top 3. But Verlander I have on there. And you got to, and the one I'm leaning towards is Alek Manoah of Toronto, who is, in only his second year. I put a lot of value on innings pitched. And the fact that he leads the league in innings pitched, he almost has 200 innings pitched, has a super low ERA, has a great strikeout to walk ratio, and is the ace of a team that is a playoff team. Alek Manoah is my pick to win. He would be who I would vote for as American League Cy Young Award winner.
Wow. I would still probably go with Justin Verlander, because I still feel like he's been the most dominant guy in the American League this year. I'm not confident in Ohtani even cracking the top 5 in Cy Young voting this season, because the American League is going to be very tough. I have number 2 and number 3 pretty much tied. I have Manoah and Dylan Cease, because I feel like Cease, Manoah pretty much have had like the same season this year. They've both been super dominant, right next to each other in ERA. And then Ohtani, he's been super dominant this year, but the innings pitch is always going to be a killer for him, like you just mentioned. You love how Manoah has led the league in innings pitch, has been a workhorse. Ohtani is a workhorse on the day he pitches. The thing is, he can't pitch every 5 days like a normal guy, because he has to also be in the lineup hitting you 40-plus home runs and driving in 100-plus RBIs throughout the season. So I don't think Ohtani might he could crack the top 5 in Cy Young voting. I don't think he'll crack the top 3, because you also got a guy in Framber Valdez in the Houston Astros who will probably be number 4 or 5. He set the major league record, I think, this season for consecutive quality starts in a given year. So the American League Cy Young voting, the last 2 seasons has been super stacked, the candidates in the race. And I think it's just going to be another stacked year. When you look at that, well, actually, I take that back. Last year, I don't think it was that stacked, but this year, I think the American League Cy Young race is very stacked.
Okay, the American League Rookie of the Year, I think, is pretty cut and dry. I in Julio Rodriguez, what he's done, I mean, he's just been such. I mean, Adley Rutschman has been a great addition to the Orioles. George Kirby's done a fine job with Seattle, but the Mariners' season turned around when Rodriguez showed up. They're a different team with him, and in fact, any forecast of Seattle's chances in the postseason rests solely on Julio Rodriguez's shoulders. He's already become that type of a player, and I think that I think he's maybe the unanimous Rookie of the Year in the American League.
Yeah, I think it's more of a conversation for who should be runner-up and third in the American League voting, because I had a tough time figuring out who should be decided after Julio, because I think it's run away with Julio. Near 30-30 season, all-star, put up a phenomenal show in the home run derby. It's just been a fantastic season from start to finish from Julio Rodriguez. But for like runner-up, I got maybe a Joe Ryan from the Minnesota Twins. Yeah. He's had a very phenomenal, maybe not phenomenal, but very good season.
He's a solid player, solid rookie year.
Yep. Yeah, solid rookie year. Bobby Witt Jr., not a great Royals team, but he had a near 30-30 season, just solid numbers across the board. Even got like George Kirby, not a ton of innings pitched, but still very solid numbers across the board. So there was a lot of good rookies in the American League, maybe not great rookies like Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one great one. Manager of the Year. This is an interesting one because tell me who you think the Manager of the Year is, because I think
I know who you might pick.
I have two choices, but tell me. I have one winner, but both my 1 and 2 are former Manager of the Years.
Yeah, I'll tell you who I think it is, and I'll tell you who I think you're going to pick. I think it would be Scott Servais. Is that how you say his last name? Servais?
Yeah, Servais. Yep.
Servais, yeah, of the Seattle Mariners. Just because if you're the manager of the team that breaks the drought for longest playoff drought in sports history, I think you just have to win Manager of the Year. I think it just has to be a given. So there's not even a lot of analysis there. He broke the playoff drought. You're getting the award, dude. But I think for you, Sully, I think you're going to go with the former Red Sox great Tito of the Cleveland Guardians to win Manager of the Year, because he's had a great season. The Guardians haven't won that division in a while. He's dealt with health issues the last couple of years. He's come back strong this year. He's been there the whole season, and it could be his final year because of those health issues. So I think for all those reasons, you're picking Tito.
I almost picked Dusty because this is Dusty's team, and they lost Correa. They were, this was a team that people were thinking was probably maybe on the way down, and they had a 100-win season. Now, Dusty's won the Manager of the Year several times. This is now Dusty's team. This is no longer they inserted Dusty into it because of the S storm that happened post Trash Can Gate. This is his team now. And I think he's done a fabulous job. But it has to be Francona for this reason. This is a team. They're a 90-win team. This is a legit playoff team. They are not only younger than any team in baseball, they have younger than any team in AAA. This is a bunch of young kids. This is a bottom 5 payroll team. They're paid like they're the Marlins or the Pirates. And if you take a look at this team, the way that they were put in a situation that the day before Labor Day, Minnesota caught them. And so they looked at and said, oh, man, we have the rest of the month. We are neck and neck with Minnesota, and Chicago only a game or so behind. And what did they do? They kicked the snot out of everybody. They played 9 games against the Twins and won 8 of them. They smacked around the White Sox. They ran away with the division. And the fact that he got that young team to believe in itself, to face that adversity, and to do so without an MVP candidate, without a Cy Young candidate, with just a bunch of young kids running first to third, and you have the former Cy Young Award winner Shane Bieber had a terrific second half. You had the all-star Jose Ramirez is still a very, very good player, but you got the Steven Kwans and the Ahmed Rosarios and the Jimenezes and the Ramirezes and the Gonzalezes of the world. I meant to say Gonzalez instead of Ramirez. It would just sort of like, you got these guys. Who is this guy? I don't know, but he went first to third on a single. And that he did that. And this team is a dangerous team going into the postseason because A, they're healthy. B, they have the best bullpen in the American League and certainly the best closer in the American League with Clase. They will drive a team bananas with their speed, and they have a pitching that could match up well with the Yankees. I don't think the Cleveland Guardians are going to the World Series. I'm beginning to think it's going to be Houston. But the fact that he's doing all of this with this team, to me, this is Francona's award.
Yeah, you gotta love Tito because he's a force multiplier. He's like the Tom Brady of managers. He doesn't need elite weapons. He doesn't need elite players. He's maximizing the talent of everyone on his roster. Like you just mentioned, you go up and down the lineup. It's not a lot of elite talent there. Jose Ramirez is great, but outside of that, he's getting a lot of career seasons, a lot of rookie talent, really playing above maybe expectation levels that we had for them coming into the year. So Tito, it just does that. You're getting the most out of your rotation with the McKenzies and the Shane Biebers, who we've seen be great in the past, but never over the course of a full season. So he's pushing all the right buttons and he's maximizing the talent on his roster. That's what Tito has always been able to do, and it's one of the reasons why he's going to make the Hall of Fame one day as a manager.
All right, let's talk about the National League.
Mm.
Your buddy Goldschmidt looked like a lock for a while.
Should still be.
And you know what? I still would vote for him. He's still my pick, but Arenado and Freddie Freeman are both two guys who deserve a lot of.
They're close.
It's pretty close, and I could listen to arguments for Nolan Arenado, for Freddie Freeman, or for Goldschmidt. I would lean towards Goldschmidt, but again, I don't think you can go wrong with anyone. I think none of them are having the dominating season the way Judge is, so they're all having MVP caliber seasons. So it just kind of leans on your own personal taste. I would go Goldschmidt, but I would have no issue if someone voted for Arenado. Those are your top three right there: Arenado, Freeman, and Goldschmidt. And I think it's pick 'em.
I actually don't have Arenado in my top three. It's very close, but I was like, if I'm going to have, I felt like I couldn't have two players from the same team in my top three, even though for WAR, I do believe Goldschmidt and Arenado actually tied for WAR, but I do feel like Goldie has had a slightly more well-rounded offensive season. At one point, we felt like he was going to win the Triple Crown. Obviously, he's not. Freddie Freeman quietly has 13 stolen bases this year. He's double-digit steals, which is just amazing for a guy who's in his early 30s and more of a lumberjack kind of a dude, more of a plotter on the bases than a speedster. But another dude who I have in my top three, I still have Manny Machado in my top three. He still has a fantastic stat line. I know Juan Soto's there now, but he had to carry that offense so much throughout the season. It looks like the Padres are going to make the postseason. They were able to kind of really lock in on that second wildcard spot and kind of pull away as the Phillies were starting to come back to the pack. And I think when you look at that offense, Manny Machado has been the driving force the whole year. And I can't put Freddie Freeman as high as one or two just because he's on the Dodgers. That team is so stacked. I just feel bad giving a guy an MVP award to a team that's full of MVPs. I just feel like that kind of goes against the spirit of the award a little bit, in my opinion. So that's why I'll put guys like Machado and Goldschmidt ahead of Freddie Freeman.
All fair. This is one. One that I don't think there's any discussion on. The only discussion I have is the middle finger I'm going to give to the organization he plays for. The Marlins have Sandy Alcantara, who should be the unanimous Cy Young Award winner. I mean, we're safe with that one?
We're saying he's Cy Young, but actually looking throughout the stats again, it's a little bit closer. He's come back to the pack a little bit. The stats might be a little bit closer than you think.
Oh, please. Okay.
The innings pitched he's killed, but he's not running away with overall stats.
Who else you got?
I mean, Zach Gallen, he's going to be in there.
You got to sneak in the Diamondback player. Who else? You got to bring in Madison Bumgarner. You got to give him a vote.
I mean, Zach Gallen only had one of the longest scoreless streaks of all time in Major League history, 44 and a third. We went over a month without seeing Zach Gallen give up an earned run, Sully. That's got to matter for something. He also leads the league in whip and hits per 9, and he's also top 5 in strikeouts. He's going to be top 3 in every stat, Sully. He's going to be number 2.
Top three.
Sandy's definitely it. I'm not saying Sandy's not it, but he's a little bit closer than what we once thought. Maybe he shouldn't be unanimous. Maybe you give one vote to somebody else, just so it's like a 99% share for Sandy. That's my only point.
The thing that makes me angry is that the Marlins are going to sit him. He's done, and he has one more start, and it's against Atlanta, and
Oh,
that could mean something. That could mean the difference between Atlanta going to the division series or having to play in the wild card series. And look, if you clinch, like if you're Cleveland, you're New York, you're Seattle, you could do whatever you want. You've earned the right to sit or do anything you want. But if you are having a meaningless game for your team, but it could have meaning to the pennant race and the actual how you're going to unfold the postseason, then you've got to play your best players for the integrity of the game. I have no
the integrity.
well, it's like, oh, the Marlins are not going to throw their Cy Young Award winner. Why? Well, we want to give him 1 day extra rest. And that could be the difference between if the Braves and the Mets are tied going into the last game of the season, and that's the difference between the Mets going to the division series or the Mets having to burn DeGrom and Scherzer in a wild card series. I'm sorry, you got to throw your best pitcher.
What if they're doing it to evaluate one of their own young starters? What if they're throwing
stop it.
Sanchez
Stop
out
it.
there?
This is not spring training.
No, we can't see.
You
one
got a
of those
Cy Young. He pitched this week. He
Well,
pitched
what?
great against Milwaukee. Milwaukee won the game, but he threw a complete game. They had to beat him. They had to beat their best. Now, if Atlanta beats Alcantara, then you tip your hat to the Braves. Say, hey, you put your best on, you beat them. But if you don't play your best, what? To give them 3 days extra rest?
Maybe they're
before the offseason?
Maybe they're protecting Sandy's Cy Young candidacy and making sure he's not giving up 8 runs in 2 innings.
Because Zach Gallen's right on his heels.
Exactly. All of a sudden, Zach Gallen's taking over in the Cy Young race because you have a terrible start against the Braves and now your ERA is blown up. I see what you're doing, Miami Marlins. You see Zach Gallen's coming for you, and they're trying to slow down that train. Very respectable, Miami.
All right, I'm mad. I'm mad. Okay, let's move right on.
Right.
The one thing is absolutely a given. The National League Rookie of the Year is going to be a member of the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
The only question is, will it be Michael Harris or will it be Spencer Strider?
Yep.
I think either one is fine. They both have wonderful. I would personally give it to Strider because what he has done to give the Atlanta Braves pitching staff an extra amount of depth, especially with some of the injuries they've had to their bullpen. To have that extra depth in their rotation, I think is one of the reasons why they're going to be a 100-win team, and maybe win the division, maybe repeat as World Series champions. But Michael Harris II, much better than the first, is been a great player. And so I think either one of them, I'm fine with either one of them.
Yeah, I'll probably lean Strider because he has over 200 strikeouts and like 130 innings pitched. This guy could potentially be the next 300K strikeout guy in a season. He set the Braves, I think, franchise record for strikeouts in a single game because I think he has 17 strikeouts in one game earlier this year. Michael Harris has been phenomenal as well this season, but I'll give it to Spencer Strider. But once again, Sully, I think the real thing that you're watching out for in this race is who's going to finish third. I think third in the Rookie of the Year voting is actually going to go to another Diamondback, another top 3 award guy, Jake McCarthy, who's batting over 290, above an 800 OPS with 20-plus stolen bases in like only 100 games this year. Jake McCarthy deserves third in the NL Rookie of the Year voting.
I have no problem with that.
All right, there we go.
Now let's go to the Manager of the Year because right up until recently, I thought this was a lock for Buck Showalter. Especially when he had him in first place without DeGrom and Scherzer. Now he has him not in first place with DeGrom and Scherzer. Look, they're going to win 100 some odd games, I assume. I assume they're going to, break 100 wins. But who else do you pick on that? I mean, you could go Bob Melvin, who could win the Manager of the Year with his third different team when you consider the injuries and the suspensions on that club and that they'll going to make the playoffs. Do you give any love to Dave Roberts as the 110 win Dodger team? No, none for him.
Not when you have 10 MVPs, no.
All right. Well, then I'll tell you who I'm giving it to then. I'm going to give it to Snitker. They got off to the clumsy start, and he has them. They were dead in the water, and he's already won a Manager of the Year, But this is going to be his greatest regular season, whether they win the division or not. He already has the most of any regular season victories, and I lean towards him.
I can't hate that. I'm going to put Snickers second on my list because I'm going to go with the guy who you mentioned to start off, and Buck Showalter, just because he turned around a cursed franchise. There's been a lot of years we come into a season with expectations for the Mets, and usually they go nowhere near those expectations. But Buck Showalter was able to possibly exceed those expectations so far, at least through the regular season. A revolving door of players throughout the year, a lot of injuries in that lineup and rotation. So I felt like he's done a great job managing that team. I will have Brian Snitker second on my list. He's been phenomenal. The Braves had that slow start, able to turn it around. Now they might win the division, but they were already a pretty good team last year. I mean, they're the reigning World Series champs.
I was going to say, go out on a limb there. They were a pretty good team. They won the World Series.
Yeah, and there were some question marks coming into the year with the whole Freddie Freeman, and they trade for Matt Olson and then Ronald Acuna. There's always like weird stuff with him and the team, it seems like. So there was some question marks and some controversy. They didn't miss the beat. So they looked phenomenal. I think third on my list, I actually got a guy, first-year manager this season. He's took over for a guy who probably shouldn't have even been fired last year after winning 90 games with his team. But Oliver Marmol, why not give him third in the manager of the year voting for the St. Louis Cardinals? They won the division. I mean, you're going to bring in a new manager. Your team won more games and you clinched the division. I mean, what more could you have wanted as the Cardinals franchise from your new manager? So he should get some love.
And I will just say, I'm giving some love to Dave Roberts because it's one thing to have a huge budget and tons of expectations. It's another thing to meet them. It's another thing to be given all this where, you have to be brilliant or you're a failure. He's won over 110 games with his club. It's the greatest regular season in the history of the Dodgers. So sometimes when we've seen so many times, there have been teams that are big budgeted, that are filled with stars, that they fall short. How about giving credit when someone doesn't fall short? Now, again, Coen Brothers rule. Dave Roberts has already won the manager of the year. So I can't sit here and go like, it's unfair. No, I understand why you wouldn't. Well, he's supposed to do that. He's supposed to do that. Well, guess what? He did. He was supposed to, and he did. And in the last 5 full seasons, not counting the COVID years, his last 5 full seasons, his team has won 104 or more games every year, except for one. And then, of course, the COVID year, they won the World Series. Yeah. So I have no compunction saying that I think that he deserves credit for saying, hey, we put this team, what are you going to do? I don't know, give you the best team you ever saw. So I don't think, I've seen plenty of times where there have been teams that are, oh, this is a super team that, this is a super team this, that fall on their face. And they lost Walker Buehler. They lost Tony Gonsolin. And they were in a division with another legit playoff team with the Padres who are going to make the playoffs, and it's not even close. So you got to give a little bit of love for that.
We could give him a little bit of love. Let's not give him too much love because look, he's had the super team for a while now. Maybe if it was his first year building this super team, you added all these players in the offseason, but it's been a pretty consistent super team for a while there now. So I'm not too surprised that they won another 100+ games in the season. All
right, we've gone way over here. I've given us too much love. So Millard Thomas, tell people where people could follow your podcast.
Follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram. We're on YouTube, Locked On Diamondbacks on there as well. And of course, we're on all your podcasting platforms.
You can follow us at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, and the show is at Locked On MLB Pods, both Twitter and Instagram. Yelling at each other, disagreeing, and giving Roger Maris' son a break. This has been the Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover for the third day of October 2022. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. That's Millard Thomas. Call me Sully. Let's fist pump.
Boom.